If you're constantly wondering, why am I not making enough milk? Or why is my output so random? Or if you feel like you're doing everything right, but still find yourself trying to do more, this video is for you. Today we're going to break down the real reasons why milk supply drops, and more importantly, what you can do about it. If you're looking for honest, science-backed breastfeeding and pumping advice without spending hours scrolling Google for conflicting advice, that's why we're here. My name is Allison Tolman. I'm an IBCLC and the founder of New Little Life, a company focused on helping each mom become their own pumping expert and find total control of their milk supply. After having worked with thousands of pumping moms, I feel like I've seen and heard it all. And the truth is, while a lot of your breastfeeding journey is unique to you, a lot of it is not. So here are 4 pieces of advice I'd like to give to any and all pumping and breastfeeding moms who are struggling with consistency in their milk supply. You can find more science-backed pumping information like this in our courses that are currently available on the New Little Life website, which is newlittlelife.com. Let's start with the foundation of milk production, which is supply and demand. I love talking about this because it's something that most moms already know about, but which doesn't really click for most of them in any kind of actionable way. The law of supply and demand is really simple. Your body makes milk in response to stimulation and milk removal. The more effectively and frequently milk is removed, the stronger the signals your body gets to keep producing milk. But the tricky thing is, a lot of moms think they are emptying their breasts when they're actually leaving milk behind. This signals your body that it has produced too much milk and now needs to produce less. The best way to drain your breasts of milk is to breastfeed often and or to pump often and efficiently. So why do you need to pump often and efficiently instead of just pumping often? Because a lot of moms out there are attached to their pump for hours each day and are still not getting the milk supply that they need, simply because they haven't learned how to use their pump to the best of its ability and specifically for them. Remember, breast pumps are not babies. They are machines, which is why it is so important to understand how they work, what they're capable of doing, and how to use them in a way that closely mimics the experience of having a baby at the breast. Here's a simple way to think about supply and demand. Every time you remove milk well, you're placing a milk order for your next session. If you leave milk behind, your body says, oh, we don't need as much next time, and it will send less. That is why technique and consistency matter so much more than willpower alone. Yes, it's important to pump often, but often is no substitute for efficiency. I think this is one of the most common things that moms do when their milk supply is not where they want it, is they start pumping more. But if you're pumping poorly more often, that's not really going to get you where you need to go. If you're sitting here at this point thinking, well, how do I pump more efficiently? There's some information in the description for you. Now, if your milk supply has changed, keep in mind that it is totally normal for your milk supply to fluctuate as your baby grows. As your baby's needs change, your milk production will also change. In the newborn stage, it's a lot of hormones. Your body is just flooding you with milk as it tries to establish a baseline for how much milk your baby will need. But after several weeks, it becomes much more supply and demand based. This is usually when moms start to panic because they think their supply is disappearing. You may notice that your breast feels softer, you're leaking less, and sometimes your pump output can dip. Often it's just your body regulating, not necessarily a problem. And as long as your baby is still getting enough milk, it's okay to not feel like your breasts are full and heavy like they used to be. And I'm sure you won't miss having random milk leaks throughout the day. The problem here starts, though, if you realize that your post-birth hormones were masking pumping issues, which is a really common thing that I see with pumping moms. It can be easier to pump a lot of milk in the early weeks when even a light breeze flowing through can bring the milk letdowns, right? Because your hormones are helping so much. After these hormones kind of settle down and regulate out, suddenly pumping issues can now be seen. I've seen this so often. A drop or adjustment of your milk supply around the time it regulates can be normal for sure. But if you're not making enough milk, that's a problem. And it almost always comes back to a pumping issue if the pump is involved in your feeding journey. If you're mostly using the baby, this is usually a time when we see that the baby was not removing milk well, right? So it kind of depends on what you're doing. But for us, we're really focusing on pumping education here. It can be tricky to troubleshoot what's going on and where the problem lies, especially if you're doing a combination of both. But we do cover a lot of those skills and concepts in our milk supply mastery course. That course paired with the Pumping Efficiently course is really a dynamite combo. I highly recommend that you take those courses together. We want to be able to create a predictable milk supply and really understand what your body is capable of and its typical patterns. There's a link down in the description if you want to learn more. Okay, so now that we have a basic understanding of how milk supply works, let's talk about some of the most common reasons why your milk supply might drop. Here are a few common ones I saw when I was working closely with hundreds of moms in our coaching program designed specifically for pumping moms. Inconsistent milk removal. All right, skipping sessions or letting too much time pass between feedings can really affect your milk supply. One of the things I love talking about is setting up a pumping routine that works for you so that you can achieve the results you want without sacrificing your sanity. There's no cookie cutter schedule that works for everyone. I think we actually cover this topic in both of those courses in a little bit different ways, but we have whole modules on creating your individual pumping schedules that takes into consideration every possible life factor and barrier that you have. Your goal should be to pump with confidence, never having to wonder whether you're doing too much or not enough. Next is inefficient pumping. There are so many factors that go into pumping efficiently. Flange size, pumping techniques, triggering letdowns, the list goes on. Knowledge is power though, and the more you know about your pump and how to use it efficiently, the better you will get at troubleshooting and improving your milk removal with the pump. Again, for me, it's all about figuring out, what does this mean for you? How do we get your pump to remove milk for you? Which things are the most important, and how do we find those and keep doing those? Next is stress and sleep deprivation. Cortisol and fatigue absolutely affect milk supply. While we want nothing more than for you to reach your breastfeeding goals, I would hate for you to do it at the cost of your peace and sanity. If you're sitting with your pump and staring at the bottle, counting ounces and stressing about how little milk you're getting, chances are that you are not going to have good output, or as good of output as you can. Trying to find some confidence and enjoyment can make all the difference. Returning to work, new schedules, reduced pumping time, added stress, distractions, these can all really affect your supply if you're not prepared for what is ahead. I loved helping moms prepare to return to work because once you know what to expect and what to do, chances are that you'll not only feel way better about going back to work, but you'll also find it much easier to reach your breastfeeding goals. Just so you know, the courses that we currently offered are designed for all moms using a breast pump, not just working moms. But that is where I have spent a lot of time and research and serving clients individually over the last few years. I think we have some extra bonus coursework on that too, if you will be returning back to work. And lastly, you might see changes in your milk supply due to growth spurts or developmental changes. Babies tend to need a little bit more milk during growth spurts and may become a little bit fussier at the breast during developmental changes. So if you're exclusively pumping, you may see a sudden increase in baby's milk needs and need to adjust your pumping accordingly. If you're also combo feeding at the breast, it can cause multiple symptoms that can be really confusing. Just remember that there's nothing wrong with you or your body or your baby. It's all normal and part of the process. We don't often see milk needs of breastfed babies go up after that first month. So months 1 to 6, their needs are typically pretty steady, aside from the growth spurts and developmental leaves. And we talk about this in that milk supply course, what to expect, especially with a breastfed baby. Because if you look at formula needs, those do tend to go up. And sometimes I think moms think, oh, the baby's getting bigger, they need more milk. But knowing what's actually normal for breastfed babies can really help you make sure that we're not overfeeding babies, especially if you're pumping and bottle feeding on top of that. We also cover bottle feeding in that course. It's pretty extensive. I tell you, I've been doing this for a long time. I know what you need. It's in there. All right, now here's a mindset shift that will change how you think about your milk supply forever. The 24-hour mentality. This is something that I teach in all my courses and which has changed how so many moms see their pumping schedules and their milk supply. So instead of judging your supply on a single session, try looking at your total production over 24 hours. Why? Because your output will naturally vary, and this can give you a much better picture of what is happening. It also significantly reduces stress. When you have just had a 1.5 ounce pumping session, it can be really easy to feel defeated and to think, I have low milk supply, I got to change all these things. But if you step back and look at a 24-hour or 7-day picture, or week by week, you can see a bigger trend and bigger patterns, all right? Because your output does naturally vary a little bit. So we need to know if it's a problem or if it's not a problem. Some sessions are lower, some are higher. Your hormones change throughout the month and throughout the day. Stress, hydration, baby behavior, all of it can affect your immediate milk output right now. So if you look at one low output pumping session, you might think you have low milk supply, right? But if you had a really great pumping session earlier in the day where you got twice the amount of milk, instead of stressing now about, X number of ounces while you're pumping, that 24-hour and that 7-day mentality really helps you understand what's happening and puts you more in control. This shift removes so much pressure and anxiety from each pumping session and gives you a more accurate picture of your real milk supply. Let me just wrap up by saying, if your supply is struggling right now, that doesn't mean it's over. It is never too late to increase milk supply. It just means your body needs a little help. With the right tools, methods, and mentality, you can start working towards achieving the results that you want and be in the driver's seat of your own experience. If you want to stop obsessing and start optimizing, I really encourage you to check out the courses listed down below for you. It will really help guide you step by step and give you that control in your milk supply that I know you're looking for. Drop a comment down below and tell me if this resonated with you, or if you've ever felt like your supply just vanished, or if it's inconsistent. I would love to hear your story and where you're actually at. If you were able to reverse it, how did you do it? We want to hear. So make sure you're subscribed if you're going to be pumping long term so we can continue to help you. But again, if you're done searching YouTube, we have a lot of YouTube videos, which you should watch them. Here's another one. If you want a step-by-step program and something more detailed, again, there's a course in the description for you. All right, good luck and happy pumping.